Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. This is the StriveScan 6x6 Virtual College Fairs Presenter Training. My name is Jen Payton. I am one of the co-directors at College and Fair Relations at StriveScan.
And I'm Zach George, another one of the co-directors of College and Fair Relations at StriveScan. Thank you so much for joining us.
And we also have Dan here, who is the founder and president of StriveScan, but he is not joining us today. But I want to thank you for joining us. We are going to be going over what exactly is the 6x6. You might have heard that terminology been thrown around, but what is it? We'll let you know who is actually participating in this 6x6 virtual college fair format. What is the format? And then we'll go over Zoom webinars versus Zoom meetings in case you have not ever been exposed to a Zoom webinar. We'll go over some best tips and practices when it comes to student Q&A, how to join the presentation, what kind of student registration data you're receiving after the fact, and final reminders for you before you enter into your fair season. So the StriveScan 6x6, when we first kind of came up with this idea, we were thinking of how do we closely replicate an in-person college fair browsing experience for students without a virtual booth, but also being able to ensure that we're exposing institutions to a wide variety of students and ultimately broadening students' horizons. Thus, the 6x6 was born. So this is essentially a format that consists of 6 colleges presenting for 6 minutes in a virtual webinar session together. And this virtual webinar session will last 45 minutes. So throughout this presenter training, you are going to hear a few numbers being thrown around, but the most important ones to remember is that a session lasts 45 minutes and your institution's presentation time is 6 minutes. And so these are our current virtual college fair participants. We have WACAC in California and Nevada regions, Archbishop Mitty High School and Mount Diablo Unified School District in California, College Fairs of Greater Denver in partnership with Colorado Western Slope and Northern and Southern Colorado Fairs. We have HACAC in Hawaii, Georgia Probe, Yes Prep in Texas, Okra in Oklahoma, TACRO in Tennessee, CACRO in Kansas, North Hunterdon Regional High School in New Jersey, Spokane T24 in Washington, College Wise, which is in multiple states, American Heritage Schools in Florida, the Urban Assembly in New York, and finally, Alaska College and Career Fair. So the actual format itself, representatives are going to be assigned by the fair coordinators to a session of 6 colleges to present together during that webinar session. And again, that session lasts 45 minutes. So even though your particular presenting time is 6 minutes, students will be able to interact with reps from all 6 colleges throughout the entire 45-minute session via the Q&A chat. So you are required to stay in the entire 45-minute session to make sure that you are there to answer students' questions. The total time commitment is about an hour per virtual fair you're participating in. We're asking you to join the webinar 10 minutes prior to your session start time, ultimately to do a roll call, a technology check, make sure everyone's feeling comfortable, everyone's present, and you are to stay the entire session. A StriveScan representative is actually going to be on the webinar as well to check you in and to provide any assistance that you may need. And we'll go into more detail on exactly what that role of that StriveScan representative is. But as I mentioned, each college will have 6 minutes to present, and the StriveScan representative is going to make sure that everyone is sticking to their 6 minutes as well. We want to make sure that everyone is getting their fair share. No colleges are going beyond their 6 minutes, so we are going to be pretty strict about that. We do encourage you to highlight distinctions about your institutions using slides, providing any visuals, campus photos, all the feedback that we've received from students. They appreciate this aspect. So although you're presenting for 6 minutes and you may just want to chat, we do encourage you to use some sort of visual aspect to your presentation. So this is what that session will ultimately look like. So first, it's going to be a very brief introduction by that StriveScan representative, and then they are going to then kick it off to the colleges. And that first college is going to present for 6 minutes, and then it's going to go down the line to that last college presenting for their last 6 minutes. And then that's going to leave a few minutes for final Q&A towards the end. And we're going to go over what that final Q&A will look like. So this is a schedule that the fair host will actually send to you all. And this is going to show you your specific time slot, who you've been grouped with, and what order you will be presenting with. So we have gotten feedback from students that they actually do enjoy hearing from a multitude of colleges within one session, that they're getting the most bang for their buck. And this was kind of us thinking of, we're broadening the students' horizon here, because they might go in and see a group and be interested in 3 of those 6 institutions. But coming out of that session, they might be interested in 5 of the 6 institutions. So we're definitely capitalizing on students' interest in particular institutions, but broadening their horizons here. And so the length of the session, as I mentioned, is 45 minutes. This is a hard stop at 45 minutes. We do have a back-to-back schedule. A lot of the fairs have concurrent sessions running, so that we can host a large number of colleges in any given afternoon fair or evening fair. Because of this, we have to stick to a tight timeline. So again, we just want you to be cognizant of that 6-minute time frame that you have. There is not going to be any virtual or any visual 6-minute countdown. Instead, we're asking you to use your phone as a timer, or make sure you're paying attention to your computer clock, that you're not going beyond that 6 minutes. We are admissions professionals here, so we want you to just be respectful of your own time and your other colleagues' times as well. Students are actually going to register directly from that schedule as well. So this is where they can view the colleges that are presenting in any given session and decide to register. Students are encouraged to register for multiple sessions. And once they do register, they are going to receive an email with a webinar link to join that specific webinar. Reminders are sent 1 day prior and 1 hour prior to the session start time, just to ensure that students have what they need to join your particular session. If counselors are interested in attending, they may be a part of your audience as well. And if they are interested, their registration process looks the exact same as that of a student. So I'm going to pass it over to Zach now to go into a little bit more logistics on Zoom webinars versus Zoom meetings. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Jen. So these sessions, all of these 6x6s are set up as Zoom webinars as opposed to Zoom meetings, which you may be familiar with already. All of these Zoom webinars are provided by StriveScan. So you and your team do not need to provide an institutional Zoom account or a Zoom webinar account at all. They are all provided already by StriveScan. There are a few differences between Zoom webinars and Zoom meetings, which we'll cover in the next few slides. But the main thing to keep in mind is in a Zoom webinar, only the presenters are the ones that can turn on their screens, their cameras, and their microphones. So that is the primary difference. The students in a Zoom webinar do not have the ability to take over screen share. They do not have the ability to share their audio or their video at all. One of the other logistics to keep in mind is when you are not presenting during your 6 minutes, we ask that you turn your video and mute yourself during that section. You can still be answering questions if you are muted and your video is off, but we want to not be distracting to the presenter during those 6 minutes. So we ask that if you are not presenting, you have your video and microphone off. When you are presenting, don't forget to turn back on your microphone. That's a common mistake of, oh, I'm on mute. Each of the presenters have the ability to screen share. So during your 6 minutes, you're going to take over screen share from the presenter in front of you. There is no formal template that we provide you. There is no need to share your slides with us in advance. You will create your slides and bring them into that Zoom webinar, and you can share your screen as you'd like. Your video does appear alongside the screen during the presentation, so the students will see both your face and also your slides that you're presenting. When you share your screen, you can select either one window or your entire desktop, and we ask that you just be mindful of different tabs and bookmarks and other things that may be distracting to a 17-year-old that's watching this 6x6 presentation. We also ask that you turn off your notifications so as to not be distracting for the students as well. Students are submitting questions via the Q&A button, and that will be consistent through all of these 6x6 formats, and that's another difference between a webinar and a meeting. In the webinars, the Q&A button is popping up for students to submit directly just to the panelists. other students don't see questions submitted and don't see answers responded to either. So the Q&A button will appear once you join as a panelist. The students may direct their questions specifically to your institution, or they may ask general questions to the group. So they may say, hey, Georgia Tech, I'm interested in your engineering program. Or they may say, you keep saying the word early action and I don't know what that means. What does early action mean? So that's a general question or an institution specific question. For security and safety of both the students in the session and all the college representatives, chat has been disabled for these programs. We do that so that students cannot chat each other and so that they cannot distract all of the other attendees during the session. So the only way for students to engage with you as the presenter is through the Q&A button. When students submit their question, you'll see the toolbar there with the notification. Questions come up as open, and then they can be moved over to answered or dismissed as the sessions are going on. When a student submits a question, there's a few things you can do, as you'll see. There's the ability to dismiss a question, there's the ability to answer live, and there's the ability to type the answer. Dismissing a question is really for the student who just likes to say hi or likes to say thanks, and you don't need it in your main toolbar, so you can dismiss it and move it over to the next queue. There is also, as I mentioned, the ability to answer live, but we want you to not use that option during your presentation. When you press answer live, it then shares the student's name and their question with the entire audience. So it's going to be distracting to all of the other students in the audience, and it does share potentially sensitive information about that student. As you see in this example, Samantha student is asking about undocumented financial aid processes, and we don't want you to be displaying to all of the attendees that Samantha student is undocumented. We do ask instead that you type your answers, and you can do so privately, and we'll show you on the next slide. But be aware that typed answers don't make the recording either. When you type your answer, you can send privately, and that's what we recommend to do for all of these 6x6 programs. This is just a direct message between you and the student. The only person that sees the question and the only person that sees the answer is you and the student. So we recommend that as you're typing answers, you check the box to send privately. A few housekeeping items to be aware of with questions. You may not get to every question, and our facilitator will help to manage those expectations at the top of the session, but you may need to manage that as well during your 6 minutes. We do recommend that perhaps you have 2 reps from your institution participate in the 6x6. That way, when you are presenting during your 6 minutes, you can just focus on presenting, but you can have one of your other colleagues on the back answering questions that may come up about things that you're talking about in that moment. You will, and all of the other panelists will, receive a list of all the questions and the contact information of who asked the question. So if Susie Snowflake asked a question, you'll be able to follow up with Susie Snowflake afterward if you didn't get to it during that 45-minute session. We do recommend that you follow up with students after the presentation. Questions that are submitted during this 6x6 format, they may be directed to one institution or they may be directed to the entire group. So which of your colleges offers a psychology major, or more specifically for co-college, can you talk to me about your internship program? After all 6 colleges present, there will be a few minutes left over for additional Q&A. We ask that you use that time for more general questions. So rather than going into your 2-minute spiel about your pre-med program, instead use it as an opportunity for those more general questions about what early action or early decision means, or how the financial aid process works generally. So we ask that if you have that extra time as the 6 institutions, you can answer those questions together as a group.
All right, thank you so much, Zach. So I'm going to go over some presenter changes. So when you registered for any of the virtual college fairs, you submitted who the rep will be presenting at that given time. If there are changes within 8 days prior to your session's start time at that 6x6 virtual fair, feel free to email us at help@strivescan.com. Be sure to include the following: which fair you're referring to, your institution, the date that you'll be presenting, or the date that someone will be presenting, the presenter's name, and then the presenter's email address. And then we will make those changes to ensure that the correct rep is getting the correct link. Any changes within 7 days, feel free to forward your panelist link that you'll receive to join that Zoom to that person. They'll be able to join that webinar in the exact same manner. They'll just need to rename themselves once they enter that webinar. And so within 7 days, you will be given an email that will include the link to join your webinar as a presenter. And we know that you might be participating in several virtual fairs powered by StriveScan or other programs powered by StriveScan. And so we have ensured that in each email, it is going to show you which fair it is referencing. So with a banner at the very top so that you can make sure that you're using the correct link to join the specific webinar. And so if you do not receive an email within that 7 days, feel free to email us at help@strivescan.com and we'll be sure to get you that link. But these should be coming pretty regularly. So before that presentation, as I mentioned in the beginning, be sure to join 10 minutes prior to that session start time. This is truly an opportunity to get ready before the session start time. When you do join in that 10 minutes, you are going to be in a unbroadcasted room or a practice session, if you will. And that StriveScan representative will be there to do that roll call to ensure all 6 colleges are present and everyone feels comfortable moving forward. And at the session start time, the StriveScan representative will broadcast, letting the audience in. They will display a welcome slide and go over a few opening announcements and housekeeping items, and then turn it over to the colleges to start the 6-minute presentations. And then after your session, StriveScan will be sure to provide you that StriveScan export link of all of your registered students and counselors. If counselors are in fact in your session, you will receive one folder that will include 2 files, one for student registration data and one for counselor registration data. So those 2 are distinguished amongst each other. And then as Zach alluded to, we will ensure that you receive the transcript of all the questions that were submitted throughout the session, just in case you weren't able to address them throughout the session, and that you can do some personal follow-up with the students. Give us about a week or so to provide this information to you within your session ending. This is what that StriveScan registration form looks like that students use to register for your particular session. It's capturing basic biographical information. So first name, last name, email, phone number, birth date, address, which high school they attend, their grade, their expected college start date, and a few other optional fields for students to complete. The export link that we will provide to you does expire within 7 days for security purposes. So when you do get these export links, we ask you to download those pretty quickly. If by chance you do not get to it in 7 days and your link expires, email us at help@strivescan.com and we will be sure to provide you those links, that updated link. If you are familiar with StriveScan and have used StriveScan at our in-person fairs, you'll be happy to note that this data is collected the same way as it is in in-person fairs. So if you've imported our StriveScan data into your CRM before, it is the exact same process. So I know colleges have appreciated that immensely. If you aren't super familiar with StriveScan and have never used us at in-person fairs before or any of our other virtual events, feel free to visit strivescan.com/export. There is a guide and template there for you to be able to download into your CRM, and it provides you all of the information that we collect on a student. And then final reminders before we wrap it up here. Your institution's time slots for the virtual fairs you're participating in is provided directly from the fair host. So this is going to include your date, your session time, your grouping, so who you're presenting with, and that order you will be presenting in. The time commitment is about 1 hour per virtual fair you're participating in, and please be sure to join that session 10 minutes prior to that start time. Each institution is allotted 6 minutes, so be cognizant of your time and be respectful of others' times. And then each session will last 45 minutes. If you do need to make any presenter changes, 8 days prior to your session start time, feel free to email us at help@strivescan.com and you'll receive your presenter link to join your webinar 7 days prior from us at the StriveScan team. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you found this beneficial. There is going to be more information and this recording available at our website at strivescan.com/virtual/6x6. And if you have additional questions beyond that, feel free to email us at help@strivescan.com. Thank you so much and have a great day, everyone.